After repeated failures in talks and on the battlefield, is Trump finally ready to end the Iran blockade and walk back from his own red line at Hormuz? Has Mojtaba gained the upper hand as Trump quietly weighs conceding defeat over the Strait of Hormuz siege and its mounting costs? Trump says he will consider Asim Munir's view on Hormuz blockade. Is Pakistan's army chief now shaping US strategy in the Gulf? Trump's tone changes as Iran vows revenge over US bullying behavior. Is Washington being forced to escalate under pressure? Trump held a phone call with Pakistan's Army Chief General Asim Munir, Reuters reported on April 20th. Trump told Munir he would consider Pakistan's concerns about the US blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, the report said, signaling possible flexibility. Munir, in turn, told Trump that the Hormuz blockade was a major hurdle to peace talks with Iran, according to sources. Iranian President Pezeshkian held a phone call with Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on April 19th as the crisis deepened. Speaking to Sharif, President Masoud Pezeshkian accused the US of bullying and unreasonable behavior, directly blaming Washington's conduct during negotiations and the ceasefire. US actions increase suspicion that it will betray diplomacy, Pezeshkian told Sharif, according to the Associated Press, saying recent moves raised doubts about America's intentions. This came as the US attacked and seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz, in a naval operation that Iran condemned as a violation of the truce. US Navy forces fired upon and boarded an Iranian-flagged cargo ship in the Gulf of Oman on April 19th, after alleging that the vessel tried to breach a US blockade near Hormuz. The US military also released footage showing Navy fire hitting the cargo ship while it was out at sea. According to reports, a US missile destroyer intercepted the ship as it allegedly attempted to head toward Iran. The Iran-flagged vessel was said to be traveling toward Bandar Abbas port when it was stopped, according to the US military. US officials say the ship ignored communications for more than 6 hours, which led forces to take action. The destroyer then reportedly ordered the crew to evacuate the engine room before opening fire to disable the vessel. Several shells from the warship's 5-inch Mk-45 gun struck the engine area, leaving the ship immobilized in the water. US troops later boarded the Iranian vessel and took control without meeting any further resistance. The ship is now in US custody following the operation, according to US Central Command. US officials say the vessel was taken into custody after it allegedly tried to break a US blockade on Iranian ports. Iran has strongly condemned the operation as armed piracy and theft, and has vowed retaliation over what it calls a violation of the truce. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "Today, an Iranian-flagged cargo ship named Touska, nearly 900 feet long and weighing almost as much as an aircraft carrier, tried to get past our naval blockade, and it did not go well for them." The US Navy guided missile destroyer USS Spruance intercepted the Touska in the Gulf of Oman, and gave it a fair warning to stop. The Iranian crew refused to listen, so our Navy ship stopped them right in their tracks by blowing a hole in the engineer room. Right now, US Marines have custody of the vessel. The Touska is under US Treasury sanctions because of its prior history of illegal activity. We have full custody of the ship, and are seeing what's on board. After Trump announced the interception of the vessel, Iran vowed retaliation, warning that the seizure of the ship would not go unanswered and could derail diplomacy. This escalation came as Pakistan was making efforts to push for a second round of talks between the US and Iran, positioning Islamabad again as a mediator despite the growing mistrust. Trump had said that talks with Iran on extending the ceasefire would resume on April 21st, indicating that a new round of negotiations was planned before the truce expired. Trump told Fox News that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff will be heading to Islamabad for negotiations soon, naming his envoys who would lead the next phase of discussions. If Tehran does not agree to a deal, the whole of Iran would be blown up, Trump warned, issuing a stark threat while talking about the stakes of the ceasefire talks. However, Iran indicated that it was not planning to send a delegation for the talks, signaling that it would not join the proposed second round in Islamabad. There are currently no plans to participate in the next round of Iran-US talks, Iranian media reported, quoting officials who said Tehran had rejected further peace talks for now. The ongoing ceasefire is set to expire on April 22nd if an extension is not agreed upon, raising fears that fighting could resume once the current 2-week truce runs out. Iran has accused the United States of violating the ceasefire after attacking its cargo vessel in the Gulf of Oman. On April 19th, US forces reportedly fired on the ship, disabling its engine before boarding and seizing it. President Donald Trump later confirmed the seizure, saying the vessel was under US sanctions. In response, Iranian media said drone attacks were launched targeting US warships operating nearby. Iranian officials described the strikes as direct retaliation for what they called a US act of aggression. Iran strongly condemned the incident and warned that further retaliation against the US would follow. Ibrahim Zolfagari said, and I quote, "The aggressor United States violated the ceasefire and committed maritime piracy by firing at an Iranian merchant ship in the waters of the Sea of Oman and landing a number of its terrorist marines on the deck of the vessel, disabling its navigation system. We warn that the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran will soon respond to this armed piracy and retaliation by the US Army," unquote. The operation comes at a time of fragile ceasefire and growing uncertainty over ongoing diplomatic efforts. The US action also came just 2 days before the 2-week ceasefire with Iran was due to end. Meanwhile, Iran says it has no plans yet to attend the next round of talks in Pakistan.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.